Comfort and luxury at its best. It is Protea Hotel by Marriott and Tebe, where they tell you that in case you are looking for anywhere to spend your money from, they are the right people, they are the right place. They got all the services that you will need in order to enjoy your life. It is a Monday morning and you are welcome to Issues at Hand. My name is Carola and I am so glad to have you here today. Of course, there are a number of issues going on around the country, and that is what we are here to do, to get into them and see exactly where we stand as a country, economically, socially, communally, politically, and also spiritually, because of course we have to remember that God is Jesus is Lord in all of the things that we do in our lives, as well as the lives of the people around us. I'd like to start with a few issues that are going on around us in our communities, and I would like to start with a story from Luwero, where locals from Nakaseke and Luwero districts were urged to be very conscious against the new entrants coming into their areas in order to minimize the scope of threats among the residents. Now, of course, the calls were made by the Deputy Resident Commissioner for Nakaseke District. His name is Moses Muyambi, while responding to the recent mysterious killings from both districts, including the recent gun shootings. Those are some of the stories that are going on around, and we are, as a media house, have tried to bring you the police every now and then to make sure that you get to know how to, of course, embrace security and how to be security conscious on your own, even before the security people enter, even before we have the police intervening in your issues as a district, as a community, as a sub-county, and as a family. You should be vigilant and on the lookout for anything that is not right, and if you notice anything, you are free to run to the police station and report those issues immediately. Now, I'd like to move on to another story where General Museveni, in a letter to Justice Minister Norbert Mao on his homecoming in Gulu last week, expressed the wish of NRM to work together with other political parties in opposition, saying government or NRM's unity with opposition parties like the UPC and DP will help Uganda attain unity. Now, of course, General Museveni blames the former opposition on former leaders who became divided and failed to get solutions, of course, to move the country forward. Therefore, you guys as political leaders should try to reach out to President Museveni and see exactly how to work together with him. He is calling upon people from UPC and DP, encouraging them to come and work together with the ruling party, which is the NRM government. We do apologize for that technical issue, but moving on with the issues at hand, today's topic is about the LC1 and LC2 leaders whose term ended on June 30th, but we're told by the Attorney General to continue serving so that the government can figure out funds to carry out new elections for the LC1 and the LC2 leaders. Now, of course, Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Anita Among, came out and halted all parliamentary sittings until government comes up with solution for this problem, or a solution for these people who are still in office illegally. She terms it as people who are working illegally, and she says she will not lead a country where illegalities are being carried out. As we speak, Parliament is on a halt, and of course a lot of money is needed. They needed about 146 billion Uganda shillings for the whole of the elections to be carried out, but particularly for LC1s and LC2s, they needed 60.8 billion Uganda shillings, which has not yet, of course, been found by government. It was not included in the national budget that was read in June this year. We do have a guest in studio to discuss more of these issues. Her name is Mrs. Nannyonga Rashidah. She is the Deputy Mayor of Chira Municipality. We've had her before here, and of course, we've had a beautiful discussion before. We are going to do the same today. Let's welcome her. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
How is Chira Municipality?
Chira is moving on quite well. Yeah.
There are
a few challenges.
Yes, there are some issues we were discussing last time when you were here. Yeah. Were those sorted, the issues of people living around railway lines?
Those people were just sent away. They were ambushed early in the morning. Same people in Katoke. So there were no sorting. Whatever you agree is not what the government does.
Okay.
Especially those authorities, that is Uganda Railways. So normally, when it comes to local governments, when it comes to us, the local leaders, we try as much as possible to work with those authorities. Like they give you another face. We are going to work together. You sit in meetings, you discuss, you agree. But at the end of the day, they work with the above.
Okay, let's get to today's topic. Of course, we're looking at LC1s and LC2s taking over office for another term, yet their term was supposed to end on June 30th. Maybe let's begin with the basics. What are the importances, or what do LC1s and LC2 leaders do?
First of all, good morning, viewers of Family TV. My name is Nannyonga Rashidah. I'm the woman councillor representing the people of Boyogere to Chira Municipality. Then that is where I became the deputy mayor for the Municipality of Chira. Okay. So I'm so happy to be here. I've been here several times, but this is my second time with you. So I'm very happy for always being considered in issues which concern our country, and specifically the local people.
Thank you.
Who we represent to the different municipalities. In Chira, the difference we have in Chira, we have 54 villages that make up Chira. So we have 54 LCs, LC1s, and then 6 LC2s. Those are the administrative units we have. So when you look at our administrative units, these are the, because when you look at administrative units, we look at the LC1 local council 1. Each village has a local council 1 chairperson with the committee they work with, a committee of 9 people. Then LC2 the same. So these are people we work with. These are the people, these petty, small conflicts, who resolve the small conflicts. So these are people we work with as local governments in terms of budgeting. When you come to budgeting for our area, being there are 54 villages, you cannot know everywhere. So we work hand in hand with our LC1s. When we come to budgeting, we have a budgeting cycle. That budgeting cycle starts down in the LC1s. So we have meetings down with the LC1s. So when it comes to the situation that their term has expired and the Attorney General says, let them go on. And Speaker of Parliament holds that the government, Parliament will not move until when the government comes with a statement. So we see contradictions. These are, because if we come to the end of our term as leaders, local council leaders, and the government is not ready, is not prepared for another term, for elections for another term, then we get worried as leaders. What is the government doing? What doesn't the government know? Parliament, when they are passing the budget, what did they look at? Because these even the members of parliament use the LC1s in some circumstances to do their work, to mobilize for them. So if you cannot look at the local government, the LC1 chairpersons, their terms, you cannot even know that the term is ending this day, then it is worrying in this country. So leadership starts from the grassroots. So when you come in parliament, when you go to court, when you do everything and you're not considering the LC1s, then you're not leading the country well. There is something missing in our leadership. And leadership begins from the grassroots. You cannot lead from the top. We begin from down. Of course. So we are urging the government to look at this issue in a very, very serious way. Because you'll find in different villages, people will not be respecting their LC1s, saying your term is over. And indeed they are right, their term is over. Please put down your stamps. We cannot work with you. We find, like in Machinde Sabagabo Municipality, the mayor already wrote a letter asking them to bring back the stamps. You know what happens in such a situation. So we contradict ourselves as leaders, especially the top leaders. We don't look at the lower local leaders as people who do a lot of work. That's why they're not considering them in the budget. How can you pass a budget in a year where you know that also one term of office is ending and you don't include them in the budget? You'll find them having supplementary budget over issues which don't even concern the local person down there. But they're leaving issues which look at the local people, our own people, the people at the grassroots, just there.
But Mrs. Musoke, if we were to
because when you look at the amount of money that is needed, 6.8 billion,
yes,
it is small money. This is when we were going in for L1 elections, we just line up behind the people. How much do we use there? We don't need the ballot papers. We don't need the ballot boxes. It is the community which mobilizes itself. Let them bring it back to us, the LC, the municipalities. We can mobilize our people, and our people vote for their own leaders. It is just
without the money, without the 6.8 billion?
We can't. We may need a very little amount except this 6.8 billion. Because we only need to pay the presiding officers. We can even need 1 or 2. Even us, the people, we can mobilize ourselves and do it. How are they doing it years back, 30 years back, 20 years back? Were we using this whole amount?
Okay.
So sometimes exaggerating some figures brings things at a stand.
So you think that the 6.8 billion that is needed to carry out these elections by Electoral Commission is an exaggerated figure and it's not needed?
Normally. When normally government figures are exaggerated because of the way the country is being run. In whatever activity, there are those opportunities looking at the money. So this figure to me is more exaggerated because of the whole process. When you look at the process of electing the L1 leaders, we just line behind them. So this figure to me is more exaggerated.
How much should it be? How much do you suggest?
Like I told you, I may not come up with the exact figure, but the process, the way the process is, we may not need this whole amount. We can work hand in hand. Even when it comes to the communities, we the communities can mobilize for our own LCs. A little one with 500, 200. And we have the leadership because we need the leadership at whatever cost.
So some people think that this leadership is not so needed. You know, they're not like the MPs who need to sit and legislate, and they're just grassroots leaders, and you know, they're not really, really important. And that's what some people think. And that is why the government...
The community or our leaders?
The community. So that's why our leaders have put it aside and said, let it wait for when the money comes in.
I don't think that is very right. It is 100, absolutely very wrong. You cannot tell me that you don't need an LC1 leader. The person you run to late in the night, the person you run to early in the morning. These are people who move day to day, move one house to another house. These are people who recognize our stakeholders, our very own citizens in their own villages. They know who stays here. They mobilize themselves in terms of security. So you cannot tell me that you don't need the LC1. Then who do they need? They just need the police, the corrupt police we have. Everybody knows the police is corrupt, more than corrupt. So you cannot know. These are people we elect ourselves, who can sort us in our own villages in different ways. So you cannot tell me. And I am even wondering, I'm not even so sure that anybody with a sane mind can say we don't need the LC1, because they do a lot of work down there in the ground.
So what could be done? What should be the next step before we get to the Ugandans eyeing these positions and wanting to come into them? Because of course some people are hoping and saying, once so and so leaves the position, I want to come into that position. Before we reach those people, what should be done? What should the government do next?
One, we want the parliament to look at this issue in a very, very serious way, because this impacts direct our people. So let the government look at this issue. Let them find means. The government, the parliament, it has the mandate to find money.
Parliament has done its part. It has halted sittings. So it has...
but it's not enough, because it is the very parliament which passed this very budget. What were they considering when it comes to LC1? Because they should not just say we've halted, yet you knew it. So we are calling upon the parliament to act more than what they did.
Okay. So the Ugandans eyeing the leadership positions. Somebody says going into the footsteps of that LC1 or LC2 leader that were there. But we are seeing a scenario where they cannot come into office now.
Yeah.
Are they depressed? Do you think that can cause depression? Are they...
No, because we had a same scenario where the LC1s Lord does for more than 10 years when there are no elections. It's not new. But let them keep in the waiting. Time is coming. Many leadership comes from God.
True.
So any time when your God said that 2026, 2025, 2024, you'll be the else one leader, they will become. So we are pushing up the government, the parliament, everybody who is concerned, all the stakeholders concerned. Please, we need the else ones.
Now, you are talking about Parliament, but as I mentioned, Parliament did its part when Speaker of Parliament Anita Among adjourned the House sitting till further notice on July 20th, pending a definitive position on the next move by government. So meaning we are waiting for things like Ministry of Finance to say, okay, here is the money, we've got it. We're waiting for maybe Genome 7 to come in and say, why did you give that laugh when I mentioned there's no hope?
Well, the challenge with this government is everything you wait for President Museveni, everything you wait for Genome 7. But in a country where there is rule of law, not everything has to be decided by the president. Because we have different ministries, we have different authorities. Let them do their work. It should not always be the President Museveni, the Genome 7 to decide what. You mean even the Genome 7 will come up to LC1 to decide who is right and who is wrong? If it comes to that extent, are we really having a government? Are we having a Uganda? Are we having a moving country? So it's not all about Genome 7. It's all about the people. So if all the time people interests are looked at, if all the time rule of law is in the country, things move on well. Because we have the local government. We have the Minister for Local Government. What did he budget for? What did he take in cabinet during the budget preparations? What was his role? Because if you can't look at the LC1 elections as the local government minister, then what did you do? Because that is what is still incorporated in his docket. The LC1s, LC2s. As the local councils, we are in his docket. If he cannot identify that by this year, also once that is in June, by end of June, their term will have expired. If you can't remember that as the local government minister, then what are you doing? It is part of his work.
So Speaker Anita Among took it far to stop parliamentary sittings until further notice. Did she make a decision that could be solved as easy as you guys carry on without the money, it will come later?
One, I want to appreciate her and the parliament for that statement, that stand. Two, we want to request them, because when you look at our parliament, we have a parliament of so many MPs, but the few we have who can stand on people's words, who can stand for the people, that is the opposition. And a very, very few from the ruling party. So these are the MPs we have, the majority waits for the word from Genome 7. So whatever Genome 7 says, it's what they will go with. They don't take people's words. They don't take
the community's
decisions. They are only looking at Genome 7. What will he say? If he says this, then we shall take this in parliament. So we are praying for the speaker, because we looked at Toji Kwatako. You remember that Toji Kwatako?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, when we had Speaker Kadaga, the community was speaking that different thing, but what was passed in the parliament was different.
Was also different.
So we are just praying to God that we have a better government.
Okay. So I'm looking at these LCs who have been in power and are still taking on since June 30th that their term expired. Are they still effective? Are they still dedicated to doing this work? That is one. Two, are they still getting maybe the allowances that they were getting before?
One, LC1s are normally paid at the end of the year. Because every month, every month the government allocates 10,000. So
shillings?
Yes, 10,000 shillings to them. So end of the year, that is when they get the 120 each. So their payment had been already done. We are expecting to receive their payment. That is because they have been reinstated back by the Attorney General. And normally this happens in Uganda. So there is no payment that they get on a monthly basis. So I cannot say that they're getting their payment every month. They get it at the end of the year. But for the last year, they got their payment. The challenge is with the 25% they receive for the areas they did. Because they normally get it on a quarterly basis, sometimes because of the releases. It depends on the releases and what has been collected in their area as the revenue. That is when is when they get that 25%. But remember, we've just started the financial year. So if the Attorney General has reinstated them to still be working, because we cannot be in a country where we don't have the LC1s. You cannot. LC2s. And people will just be running to the LC3s for each and everything. Because in Chira we have more than 500,000 people. So if those 500,000 people have 3 LC3 chairpersons for 3 divisions, then plus the mayor, can you really settle all the disputes between those people?
I don't
just
think
in those 4 offices? You cannot. So I want to agree with the Attorney General for a short while. Meanwhile, we find a solution for this, because this is a matter of national importance. You cannot just look at electing LC1s as something very minor.
Okay. Now, the Attorney General, of course, Chiwan Kachiyowa, came out and said, he advised the previous LC1s and LC2s, like you've mentioned, to continue with service. Now, my question would be, do you think that the Attorney General, the Speaker of Parliament and Legislature are in good working relationships with the government of Uganda? Because the 3 would have come up with a solution. But we're seeing divisions, as this one is saying, if you don't want, you go and report. And the Speaker is saying, okay, let plenary stop, let the sitting stop. And then government is saying the money is not there. Do you think the working relationship is a terrible one, or is it going to be manageable in the near future? I don't want to judge and say that the relationship is not, because everybody has their own docket of work. You find the Attorney General just looks at this issue in the law way. Then when you look at the Speaker of Parliament is a politician. Yes.
This is a Speaker of Parliament who has a constituency which he represents. And this very constituency has LC1s. So you may look at their statements and judgments a bit differently. So I want to agree with the Speaker. Let her pressure the government. If at all, she will maintain that pressure. Because sometimes someone can start the pressure, but along the way, because of the country we are living in, the pressure goes. Because of some compromises and everything. So if the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honourable Anita Among, could maintain that pressure on this government, they'll find a solution. This is very small money. And like I told you, we don't need a lot of this. Because when you look at the process, how we elect LC1s, we can even, I was telling you, if the government could allow, people can mobilize themselves. Find those small resources they need in their villages, because we have strong stakeholders in our own villages, and a small amount can be allocated to those down rural areas where we cannot find some people to facilitate. But in towns, in urban areas, we can mobilize ourselves.
Okay.
And we get the small money we need in our very villages. And we take on the elections, because we need the LC1s. If the government can't find money, the stakeholders are willing. And actually, for us in Chira, there are those ones who are willing. Oh. Yeah.
Who should we tell to take on your advice or your input? Who should listen to this and take it up?
Well, one, we are looking at the local government minister. Let him take up. 2, the parliament itself. And General Museveni, because he's Tibuhabura, but sometimes let him take the advices from different stakeholders. Because for us, we are down to the grassroots. We are down to our people, the ones we lead. For them, they lead from the top. For us, we lead from the down. We know exactly what our people want.
Thank you so much. Ms. Rashidah is of the view that, of course, we mobilize ourselves as communities and as people who need LC1s and LC2s to be in office. We mobilize them even with no money. She says some communities like Shira Municipality, where she represents, are ready to come up and of course mobilize themselves and make sure that these elections will go on without the 60.8 billion Uganda shillings that is needed. Now, the budget cost for these elections, like I mentioned, is supposed to be 60.8 billion, much as 15 billion shillings is available as per the government. The purpose of funding this 15 billion shillings is available for purposes of funding the women elections, which leaves a gap of 20 billion shillings to make sure that the LC1, LC2 leadership positions get new replacements this year. My name is Carol. You are still watching Issues at Hand. We're going to take a very, very short break and we will return with more. Don't go away. Broadcasting live from the heart of Kampala, Church House, 13th floor. This is Church of Uganda Family TV, and you're watching Good Morning Family, Issues at Hand. My name is Carola. You're welcome back to the show. We are still looking at the role of LC1s and LC2s in the leadership and service delivery of Uganda. And of course, I am in studio with Ms. Rashidah, the Deputy Mayor of Chura Municipality, and we are having a conversation and seeing how exactly we can solve this issue. Now, remember that Uganda as a country has 71,216 villages. Those are the LCs in the country, and 10,717 parishes with 9 member committees, appointed by the respective chairpersons. Now, of course, as we move on, remember that Honorable Amongi, in her words, said that this was a very serious matter that must be corrected, and she further advised the Attorney General and government to do some consultations and then advise come up with advice on the country and on the matter. She vowed not to continue something she termed as an illegality, and she noted that a clear position was needed from the government and not just continued speculations. I'm talking about a clear position about when exactly the elections of LC1s and LC2s are to be carried out. My question to Ms. Rashidah first would be that are we seeing a disorganized Uganda if this is not worked upon immediately? If we don't hold these elections of the LC1s and LC2s, are we seeing a disorganized Uganda, a Uganda where people don't trust their leaders anymore?
Yeah. To me, Uganda is more disorganized than you may think. Yes, before, I think last year, we are organizing for women elections.
Yes.
That is when the government paused. One, this government is fearful, being it doesn't have the support of the people. So whenever those simple down elections come in, they are scared. The opposition is going to take it all. That is the biggest scare this government has. It is not the funds.
The NRM government doesn't have the support of the people?
It has no support of the people. You can just witness it from the by-elections where they use a lot of force. They just declare. They use a lot of force. They pre-tick the ballot papers. They bring the ballot boxes full of already ticked ballot papers. So you just say it. Any sane Ugandan, any concerned citizen of Uganda knows it, that this government is so fearful of the opposition. So when you look at our LC1s, these are the people who assist in the maintenance of law and order. They work hand in hand with the police.
Yes, they do.
So when you don't have them, then what do we have? So it is a lot in the LC1s. They make sure that decision is clear for the clerks at they work hand in hand with the judicial, the courts in the areas. So when you find that you don't want to renew their term, you don't want elections to take on, there are those LS1s where people can no longer believe in them because of the way they act. So if you forcefully force that very chairperson onto the people, what do you expect from the village? People are already tired of them. There are those ones they like, there are those ones that are tired of them because of the way they have been serving them. So you don't have to force people onto people. You don't have to force leaders onto people. Because the people are the ones who elect their leaders. So when they are done with you, let the government understand it. So also once it's really a big shame to this government to come up. You've just passed the budget. This is a term of 5 years. And you say we didn't budget for 60.8 billion for LS1 elections. It is really a shame to Uganda. Uganda is really going down every now and then because of simple things. People feeling greedy for power. People don't want to let others be.
No, but we are rising up. The Minister of Finance said we have a 5.5 raise in our GDP.
That is the same minister who said after COVID that the economy is going to shoot up.
Yeah.
Did it shoot up? So we don't believe in some people in Uganda.
Okay. So how can we solve that problem?
That problem
should we just change government?
I'm coming. That problem can only be solved with electing the right leader, changing the government. For us as NUP, we believe in change from the president up to down to the parliament.
That can't be the problem. That can't be the problem
that
because
is the
our leader has
problem we have in
our
Uganda.
leader has been in power for 30 years, and we've seen
it's coming to 40 years.
We've seen tremendous changes. We've seen tremendous infrastructure. We've seen tremendous schools being built. We've seen basically we've seen a rise even in our economy itself. Under this leadership of the same General Museveni. And I'm seeing a Uganda where disorganization is coming in. If anything happened to him, and for you saying the opposite.
I want to relate with a very near country that is Rwanda. How long has been Kagame in power?
A little as same as General Museveni. A little as...
It's not a little, because it is not even yet 10 years for Rwanda with that president. But we are coming to 40 years with Museveni. Rwanda is on a higher rise than Uganda. And you say that Uganda is moving on very well. Then I'm not agreeing with you. Because when you look at our schools, they are in most of our schools, government-aided schools are in poor positions. When you look at our hospitals, we don't have medicine in the hospitals. Because all sectors are deteriorating.
It's not that in Rwanda there's medicine in all hospitals and everything is okay.
But at least with those few years.
Even in Uganda, at least. At least people are not dying of malaria like they used to. People are not dying of HIV like they used to.
HIV, we have a lot of aid. Even malaria. But still, malaria is one of the disease which is killing a lot of Ugandans, which is not even getting more attention. Like the attention they got on COVID, the attention they got on Ebola. If we put the same attention on malaria. So, may I disagree totally with those people who say that Uganda is moving on a terrific speed. That is not right. When you look at the education sector, when you look at the health sector and different sectors, when you look at
agriculture is growing very much. We are one of the leading countries in producing some of these things, coffee, vanilla, you know.
During the, because I don't want to go much there. During the Amin's regime, because this is a Uganda where you find there was a workshop. It was an NRM workshop, but I have friends in NRM where they had a workshop with the youths, teaching them patriotism. But you need to teach patriotism in a country. You teach patriotism
come
in a
naturally.
Country. That is, it is natural because you are Uganda and you have to like your country. But because of the bad leadership, it teaches patriotism. But are we coming to patriotism, teaching patriotism with a good country? No. So, for the issue of LC1s, like I said, and I'll stick with what I say, I agree with Speaker Anita Amongi halting the parliament work till when the government pronounces itself on the next step with electing the LC1s. 2, I want to request the government, if at all it cannot find the resources, let it pronounce itself. So that with the stakeholders, the people down there who want their LC1s can mobilize resources for one village. You can find the stakeholders can mobilize the payments for the presiding officers, the payments for those people who will conduct the elections. And we go on, let Uganda move on. Let not always wait for a pronunciation from General Museveni so that things are done right.
Okay. Yeah. We were talking about the national budget that was read recently in June. And of course, I want to ask you, just lastly, where do you think government can get money from which sector do you think government can pick money from and then dedicate it to the LC ones? What is not important on the budget that they read? Is it the human capital development? Is it infrastructure? Is it agriculture? Is it roads? Because they gave UNRA money to revamp the roads here in Uganda, especially the Kampala. Which part can government say, let's leave this and then concentrate on the LC ones and LC2s?
One, I want to let the public know that there is a lot of revenue that is collected and doesn't reach the consolidated fund because of the loopholes we have in this government. So if the government can try to cover those loopholes and the whatever is collected is taken to the consolidated fund, then we could have a lot of money here. You can look at those people, URA and the workers, how they collect our taxes. We have a lot of taxes here in Uganda. When you look at us, the local government, you try as much as possible and collect our taxes and take them to the consolidated fund. Uganda has more than enough, at least, to cater for 80% on a yearly basis of the needs of the people. So, but because of the poorly collected revenues, because of people collecting and putting in their pockets, because of exaggerating activities, exaggerating certain sectors with a lot of money, it ends up misusing our funds. So using our funds right will bring back the new Uganda we are looking for. Using our funds right, collecting our funds and putting them to the right to use will bring back the Uganda to normal. We shall have the elections of LC1s without saying that the resources we don't have the resources, yet it is an important activity that has to be done in any country. So I want to urge the government, it's not all about resources, it's about the fear they have to the ground, especially in different. They are saying that opposition is in central. It's not only in central. Opposition has spread everywhere in Uganda because people are tired. I want to call. That is the only statement I can make. They are tired. They want to see change everywhere. When it comes to LC1s, they want change. When it comes to LC2, when it comes to the mayors, at all level, where you see NRM, those people who are greedy, those people who are ruling in a funny way, they want change. People want people-centered leaders, not leaders just from the state.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rashidah. She is of the view that, of course, we should let communities mobilize themselves and come up with ways on how to carry on the elections of the LC1 and LC2 leaders instead of waiting for a statement from the president each time. And, of course, we're wrapping up the show. I don't know if you have any last words or if those were your last words.
I can have my last words. One, I want to appreciate all the political leaders, especially in opposition, those who stand with the people, those who know that when my people say, that is their statement. Two, I want to appreciate all the people I work with at Shira Municipality, my mayor, our fellow councillors, the technical team we work with. We really try as much as possible to work as a team, so I want to appreciate them at all levels. And I want to let the public know that I do more businesses despite politics. I do business with the public. I have rush juice for the functions. I also do tea. I do fruits. So that is my other work. So beside politics, I want to let people know, beside politics, we have other works we do. So we come to politics to serve our people. Then we look for more money elsewhere.
Thank you. Thank you. That's an encouragement to you out there that not only your work, you shouldn't only do one thing. You can be like Ms. Rashidah, the Deputy Mayor of Shira Municipality, who also has other things to do. And I'd like to end with the Uganda Revenue Authority, which has recorded an increase in the taxes collected from Lira as a city. The taxes in northern Uganda city have now come to 15 billion Uganda shillings. And if all cities can become like Lira City, and if all districts can become like Lira City, then of course the revenue will go high and we shall see a growth in the general GDP and economy of our country. My name is Carola. Thank you so much for being a part of Issues at Hand. See you tomorrow. God bless you. Have a good day.